we are not talking about using a Siri to set up an alarm, not using an Alexa to play my song. We are actually talking about a real assistant that can actually take away some of the tasks that I have to do.
So, Varun, what kind of task are you talking about?
Sometimes I have to book an appointment, sometimes I have to book a reservation, sometimes I have to coordinate with a third party vendor, and hence they end up taking time and bandwidth. Don't you think this is something that needs to be solved for?
Personal assistant as a service already exists. If you need to have a personal assistant, probably the most reliable way is to have a dedicated person serving you. Given that that person needs to take some judgment calls, they need to have some basic level of understanding and smartness.
So Naman, if you are including human in the loop, wouldn't that affect the unit economics and take us back to the original problem of pricing out the consumer?
Yeah, so it depends what level of automation one can achieve. So for example, if you're able to do the productivity 10x for a human, which was costing you 50,000 earlier and was probably serving 5 customers, can now potentially serve 50 customers.
So Naman, do you think in today's AI world, a solution can be built that has the ability to cater to a wide number of use cases, but also at a cheaper rate or at an affordable price point?
I think welcome back to 2030 consumer. At Stellaris, we always try to understand what drives consumer behavior, and this podcast is an attempt to understand how will consumer behavior change in the future. We'll not discuss what has happened in the past, but more here to discuss how will everyday life change for Indian consumers 5 years from now. So in this episode, we'll discuss a topic that is very close to both Varun and I. Varun is here with me. So we will discuss AI-led personal assistant.
So Naman, to be clear, we are not talking about using a Siri to set up an alarm or set up a reminder, not using an Alexa to play my song. We are actually talking about a real assistant that can actually do errands for me, that can actually take away some of the tasks that I have to do as a part of an adult.
So Varun, what kind of task are you talking about? Isn't there an app for everything these days?
Naman, I don't think so. So there are these small tasks on a daily level that take up a lot more of my time. Now, sometimes I have to book an appointment, sometimes I have to book a reservation, sometimes I have to coordinate with a third party vendor, and sometimes I have to do research for gift, right? So these are, if you look at on a broader level, these are tasks either low effort or high effort, but are necessarily to be done, require a lot of my bandwidth, and essentially these are not one click task, or these are not digital for only tasks. These could be either digital tasks or some form of digital plus physical tasks, that the things that need to be done, and they essentially take up a lot of my time because you have to interact with a lot more number of apps, you have to do too many number of phone calls, and hence they end up taking time and bandwidth.
No, I think now that you mentioned it, even I can relate to it quite a lot. I think even for me, in last 5-6 years, the number of apps that I use, the number of orders that I place, and the number of people I deal with, I think that has gone up significantly for me as well.
Very interesting. So, I mean, at least the way that I am told is that this is part of adulting, and you've been doing it for a much larger time frame than me. But why has this increased in the last 5-6 years, if that is the assertion that you are making?
See, I think in general, people have started consuming more products and more services. That is the trend I am seeing around me, and clearly it is linked to higher disposable income and higher aspirations as well. People are spending a lot more time on social media trying to figure out what all stuff they can do. So I think the number of orders that I used to place is significantly higher, and therefore probably the number of refunds that I need to track, the number of times I need to deal with customer support, that is very high. So as you are ordering more stuff, consuming more stuff, I think the need to deal with all these so-called digital errands also goes up.
So, Naman, if you are saying that the aspirations have gone up and the spending and consumption has gone up, then the number of times that we use these unorganized or services or local vendors, the number of times that we are using them should have also gone up, right? Have you seen that happening in the last 10 years?
Yeah, totally. So even the services that you're consuming have gone up significantly. Again, linked to aspiration to a certain extent. To give you an example, like I totally remember like 5 years, 7 years back, I think having a personal trainer in the gym used to be a luxury. But now, as many trainers are there, as many people are there in the gym to work out. Uh, Almost all my friends are now using physio services on a regular basis because they have disposable income to do so. One more example is that kid's birthday 10 years back used to be just a small home party. Now it is like a proper event where you book a venue, You probably have a decor services as well. You have a catering vendor, you have a photographer. So just because people have more spending power, they have a lot more aspirations to do things in a better way, bigger way. People are using a lot more services, and that essentially means you have to search for all of these service providers. You have to coordinate with them, talk to them, qualify them, maybe negotiate with them. So it requires a lot of coordination on a day-to-day basis, which is something that, as a consumer, a lot of people don't typically want to do, or they don't want to, or they don't enjoy spending time on a lot of these day-to-day coordination. And hence I think that is also one kind of task that takes away a lot of time for me and for a lot of people I see around.
Very interesting. So, Naman, if you are facing it, I am facing it, most people are facing it. Don't you think this is something that needs to be solved for rather than opening three different apps, calling five different people? I just tell one person to do it and it gets done.
So interestingly, Varun, I think this has been tried in multiple forms before. So personal assistant as a service already exists. It is currently a niche luxury service mostly used by HNIs.
Why only HNIs?
So currently, if you need to have a personal assistant, probably the most reliable way is to have a dedicated person, serving you. Given that that person needs to take some judgment calls, they need to have some basic level of understanding, smartness. So the person will likely cost you at least 50,000 rupees a month, if not more. We are talking about probably 6 to 10 lakh rupees of annual spend. Now imagine number of people who can pay that much amount on an annual basis for purely for convenience. So effectively, it's a very luxury niche service. Only probably 0.1% of the Indian consumers would be able to afford it, and hence these services can never probably scale at this price point so far. And there have been attempts for in couple of different formats as well. So one such attempt was, let's say, extension of a concierge as a service for people who typically build in a given vertical, mostly for a high spending kind of a services. To give you an example, let's say if you are a travel package booking kind of a service, either online or offline, you can always offer a concierge service which can do the trip planning for you, which can make an itinerary for you. So those kind of concierges used to they still exist, but they're very limited to those particular vertical services, and very difficult to drive very high repeat, high frequency kind of a behavior. So they'll not effectively do the kind of work that we were discussing earlier. They will only do those specific services tasks for you. And then, in fact, there were another type of concierge that used to exist probably around 10 years back. People have had multiple attempts at it, which was companies that were like a chatbot at the front end, where you can ask them to do tasks like booking a cab for you, ordering food for you, booking flight tickets for you. So but they were essentially more like a workflow product at the back end with API integration with the relevant apps and the organized service providers. So those also used to exist at some point of time.
So you're talking about something like an aggregator on top of multiple use cases for which apps
Yeah, so
exist.
they were more like a super apps at that point of time.
Understood. And why didn't they work?
So primarily two reasons. I think one is a weaker value prop. So essentially, they can only cater to services for which a app already exists, because they were in a sense like a API integration to somebody else. They can't really take care of a lot of use cases which requires coordination, which requires you to deal with local service providers, search them. So all of those tasks were off the chart. Essentially, you are replacing one app from another app. So the value prop was weak, and they didn't see enough retention in those days. The second reason is the monetization was also very weak for them. Uh, Typically, we are talking about 2015, 2016 era, right? The consumers don't typically had a paying capacity for convenience at that point of time. We are talking about an era where people were not even paying for delivery. The free delivery was a norm. So essentially, if you're not charging from the consumers, you have to charge from somewhere else. And the business model for them was that they were working on affiliate commission from those service providers, which is usually very small. It is usually like 3 to 5, 6, 7%. And it is not enough to cover the high CACs that is required to acquire the customers. So effectively, the weak value prop and the failed business model and the failed monetization model led to like them not taking off at all.
Got it. So you are saying that the larger part of the problem is still unsolved. The reliable services are too expensive and have priced out the consumer, and the scalable productized version of the solution that existed, they essentially did not cater to large number of use cases. They essentially offered a lower value prop.
Yes, exactly.
So, Naman, do you think in today's AI world, a solution can be built that A has the ability to cater to a wide number of use cases, but also at a cheaper rate or at an affordable price point?
So, Varun, certainly, I think you can. In fact, that is the hope. But to be able to do both of them together, I think you need a very high degree of automation. And the question then is that can you really automate that much wide variety of tasks? So, what's your view on that?
So, Naman, using or looking at the current AI capabilities and where the world has evolved, I think automation can be done. The reason I think that is, if you look at each of these tasks, right, they can be broken down into some form of subtasks. Now, each task could be either all of these subtasks or some combination of it. First subtask is researching online. Then you have either looking through a offline vendor directory or an online vendor directory. Then you have scheduling on phone calls or via email or WhatsApp, whichever way you want to do it. Then there is coordination and setting up of an appointment. And finally, there could be some form of physical execution to the task. Now, using AI, at least in my mind, you can automate at least some parts of it. Examples being, let's say for the research part, right? You can very well use AI agents today. You can very well use the likes of GPTs and knowledge agents. Using those agents, you can scan the web, summarize different findings that you have very precise answers, get structured outputs, all of those things, right? Also, you can also add dedicated prompts for each tasks, right? Once you figure out what are the different variables for each tasks that need to be done, you can add specific prompt for it, and then over a period of time build a long list of these prompts so as to get to a very structured researched output. Second part of it is the voice bots, using voice bots for scheduling and coordination. The way that we have seen voice bots evolve, especially in the last year, they've become much more human like, right? People are now using, at least in the B2B world, people are using it much more on a daily level. We have started to get marketing calls on voice bots, right? But what has also evolved is these voice bots can now reason with you live on call. So what I mean by that is they can have a human like conversation with the other person. So they can do reasoning, they can set up some form of appointments, they can figure out what are the open time slots in your calendar, set up things according to that, and then of course set up reminders as well.
So, Varun, do you think there will be single agent for all of these tasks, or you would have specialized agents for the subtasks that you were mentioning?
So Naman, the way I see it is, yes, you will need different agents for different subtasks, but you could also configure each of these agents for different use cases. For example, you could have a different use case, different agent for, let's say, a customer support. You could have a different agent for booking. You could have a different one for reservations. If you are able to figure out a use case that has high frequency, then there is certainly a case for building a specialized configured AI agent for it.
So, basically, you are saying that we can use AI to effectively significantly improve the productivity of human personal assistants and make the service both scalable as well as affordable. Hmm. And where do you think we are in the journey of automation? Because this will require a lot of tasks to be automated. Are we there yet?
So, Naman, if I knew the answer to that question, wouldn't I be the best investor in the world? But I think, I mean, it is very hard to answer where we are or where we'll eventually land. But I think we are moving in the right direction on the automation front. We have certainly pushed the boundaries in the last 2 years. And the example that I was earlier quoting, right? Look at voice bots, right? Today, B2B players are now using it for their sales use case. People are using it for their customer support use case. Now, that is essentially replacing a human who earlier used to do that job. That means that is a certain level of automation that people have been able to achieve. Sure, those are today costing some today costings are high, but over a period of time that cost will also go down. So Naman, looking at the landscape that we've just discussed, right, let's talk about the billion dollar question here. by, let's say, in the next 5 years or by 2030, what are some logical predictions or bold predictions you are ready to make for the type of companies that might come up?
Mm. See, one kind of solution that I foresee is that you can have a AI-led human personal assistant. Essentially, these are your typical personal assistants, which are humans, but their productivity is turbocharged using AI.
So you are saying that a human will be in the loop.
Yeah, I think so. We will need human in the loop because the different variety of tasks that we discussed. I think there will be a lot of corner cases, edge cases, some complex tasks. So it'll be difficult to take out human completely out of the loop if we have to deliver really high quality, superior customer experience. And even if you're able to achieve high degree of automation, I think humans still do add certain value. Like to give you some example, humans might be required to do a basic QC before they send out the response to the customer. If a certain task is very complex, which requires problem solving, then a human will need to step in. Even if you are doing automation in your regular default workflow, if something's breaks, then human will have to step in for troubleshooting. And in the end, of course, all of us are humans, we have emotions, so some empathy touch is required eventually to build that trust and comfort level with the customers. So I think with human you can probably deliver a superior customer experience without compromising on the outcomes as well.
So Naman, if you are including a human in the loop, wouldn't then that then affect the unit economics and take us back to the original problem of pricing out the consumer?
Yeah, so it depends what level of automation one can achieve. Like as we were discussing earlier, things can be automated, and it is anybody's guess that can they be automated 50% or 80%. But whether the unit economics will eventually work or not will depend on what kind of automation can be done. So, for example, if you're able to do the productivity 10x for a human, let's say, which was costing you 50,000 earlier and was probably serving 5 customers, can now potentially serve 50 customers and significantly reducing the pricing now. So I think automation is one thing that is one has to watch out for. Uh, if we are able to achieve the right number there, then I think the economics can work.
But do you think these economics can only be then proven out at scale and not at the early level?
Totally. I think very hard to answer that right now, but eventually, even if they have to prove or not, they will only prove out at a scale. And probably in few years from now, we would also have a lot more powerful AI which can automate bunch of these tasks, but you will still need some bit of a human touch to be able to deliver high quality customer experience. And then another advantage is the availability of affordable workforce in India. So that is very specific to India. Why you can have a human plus AI kind of a service solution in India and not maybe in anywhere else in the world. What do you think, Varun? What is your view?
Naman, at least I do think there is an opportunity for a fully automated AI personal agent here. We discussed that each of the tasks is a combination of some subtasks, and each subtask will have a specialized AI agent. Now, to my mind, the reasoning models today have gotten to a point where they can create an orchestration layer essentially to figure out first how can each task can be broken down into different subtasks, what should be the order of that, and then finally which AI agent to essentially trigger for to get the task completed.
But Varun, then what about the complex use cases with edge cases? How will a fully automated solution will be able to take care of end to end all types of tasks?
So Naman, there I think, see, a fully automated solution might not be able to cater to 100% of the tasks, right? But an fully automated solution will 100% do better job in repeatable tasks than, let's say, where a human is involved. So Naman, think of repetitive tasks like me having to coordinate with my house help on a daily basis, me having to coordinate for ordering grocery on a weekly basis, right? Or coordinating with some repairman on a certain frequency. These I feel are repetitive tasks, repeatable tasks, have a similar workflow in every time that I have to do these, and hence I feel they can be automated because there are only so many number of variables that need to be checked.
And what about the tasks where a human judgment is required? Essentially, people still need to take a call between multiple options available.
So Naman, there at least I feel that is where personalization plays in, right? Initially, what these AI agents will do is they will figure out different solutions, They will give options to the consumers, or and then give a recommendation as well. And but the consumer will have the final say. Over a period of time, the AI also learns your preferences, and your preference might be different from mine, but the agent has learned about that, and then they'll be able to take those calls on their own, essentially minimizing the consumer's time, because then they don't have to finally take the call on that.
Got it. But if everything can be, fully automated, then don't you think a lot of these horizontal tech platforms like we have Siri, Alexa, Perplexity, ChatGPT, they can also do these tasks end to end if you don't really need human at all. What's your take there?
So, Naman, there, at least I am also a little dicey. See, in a purely agentic world, sure, these people will be able to do it. But I think there are some structural reasons why global horizontal players might not be able to win in this kind of a category, and you need to build a specialized player. See, one of them is a lot of these tasks will require coordination with a lot of B2C companies that we see today, right? For example, for physical delivery, you might need to coordinate with the likes of a Dunzo, or let's say a Swiggy Genie. Now, typically, what I feel is that these B2C apps, and traditionally also, if you see in the rear view mirror, these apps have been reluctant in actually opening up their APIs, partnering with horizontal players, horizontal aggregator players, specifically because this, in some sense, takes away from their distribution mode that they have today. This essentially will sort of take away from the top of the funnel, which is very, very important for them. And hence, they have shied away from it. So, that is one, at least, concern that I have there. The other thing is, a lot of these tasks might be very localized in terms of geography. So, whoever is building in this space might have to create a database or a list of local vendors which are reliable, which serve high quality, to increase customer NPS, right? A horizontal player won't be able to do that.
Quite interesting. So Varun, only time will tell whether human-led agents would come up in the future, or fully automated agents, personal assistants would come up in the future. But one thing is for sure, that 5 years from now, we are seeing a lot of personal assistant companies making our life a lot more easier. And probably the real question is, will we even remember a time 5 years, 10 years from now where a world without personal assistant used to exist?
Maybe, Naman, I don't remember a time I went to a general grocery store and bought grocery, but I'm sure 5 years from now, convenience specifically for this will not be a luxury anymore. It will be a baseline.